Hey, Happy New Year! Just wanted to jump on and share something with you really quick, something that came up for me today. And I thought, you know what, I really do feel like somebody needs to hear this. Yesterday, I had actually made a post in one of my coaching groups and asked everybody, like, what is their word? And I said, well, my word is going to be consistency because you can always win with consistency. But then this morning, I decided that I was going to take about 15 minutes and listening to some kind of brain food. And going to like YouTube or, whatever is always a good place. And one of my very favorites is Abraham Hicks. Not sure if you're familiar with Abraham Hicks, but it's a pretty fascinating thing. It's basically a woman who when she meditates is able to tap into what's called source or higher power. And it's really incredible information. So one of the things I had listened to today was basically, I think it was titled like, take the parts that you want and leave the ones that you don't. And which I always say to people, when you're listening to something, really just take what you need, don't what you don't. But what I got out of that audio wasn't so much the parts, but what really came out of it for me was the calibration of our emotions. Now, my mentor always uses the phrase, be it until you see it. You might hear people say, fake it till you make it. But he always says, instead of saying that, be it till you see it. And so my whole twist on this whole thing is, if you are not aware of your emotions, and if you're not aware of where your emotional home is, or what your default emotion is, like what is that emotion that you're always defaulting to, then if you don't have that awareness, then you're going to continue to repeat the same reality, the same life, the same outcome, whatever word that you want to use, when it comes to trying to make change. So if your goal is to, like lose weight, stop drinking alcohol, whatever it may be, if you're continuously defaulting to the same emotion and you're not calibrating, like recalibrating your emotion to that desired self, then you're never going to get that desired outcome. So let me repeat that one more time. If you are not recalibrating your emotions to be in alignment with the desired self, then you are not going to reach that desired outcome. You're going to continue to repeat your same reality. So for example, in order to make change, we have to go through what I call the uncomfortable hallway. And until you walk through that uncomfortable hallway, you're going to continue to repeat those same patterns, habits, whatever word it is that you like to use. I like to use the word patterns. It's really kind of more of a NLP type of oriented wording. Patterns. We have patterns like all throughout our life, and we default to those patterns as well. So we have patterns in our thinking, we have patterns in our routines, we have patterns in how we operate and how we show up in our life. And it's really, what pattern do we choose? I always do this because I always think of there's two sides to this, and here's the hallway. But it's where we decide to choose to live. So on this side, for example, would be your fulfilled and success side. Over here would be your not fulfilled, very unempowered type of thing. And so if you find that when you are looking to make change and you're constantly feeling unempowered, you're constantly repeating the same thing, or you're always telling yourself, I don't want to be this person anymore, you have to look at your default emotion and what you keep reverting back to. What is the pattern, the thoughts and the thinking and the emotional home that you keep reverting back to until you recalibrate and realign into what that version is of yourself, then you're going to continue to repeat that. So an example would be, let's say you desire to be somebody that is able to go to a social function without having that all or nothing type of feeling. Like, okay, well, I'm just going to have everything because everything looks so amazing, and screw it, I'm just going to, I'll just start over tomorrow because in other words, I can't control myself, because that's the story that you keep telling yourself, right? I can't control myself, or it's not worth it, or I feel like I'm missing out. That is a default emotion and emotional home. Now, if you desire to be like, let's say this lady, which we all know there's always somebody that, let's say, is standing out in the crowd, and you just happen to notice that she's standing there with grace, and she's just really beautiful and just seems to have a wonderful self-control about herself, then you might start to visualize in your mind, like, okay, I bet you her habits look like this. Or I bet you, before she came, she had eaten, maybe something that would help to buffer her from wanting to go out of control. Another thing that you could do is really start to research people that you admire. So here's a great example. So I really honestly don't watch a lot of TV, but for some reason, Netflix was actually on like, how it'll show you all these little replays and stuff. And I saw this thing with, what's that comedian? Hart. He's Snowball on Kevin Hart, I think his name is. Now, I was so impressed by him because, like he said things like this: when you wake up early, you get the edge. When you do such and such, it's going to improve this. Now, that's somebody whose habits and patterns that I would like to be more like. So what do? Then you study this person a little bit more. You kind of follow, like, okay, what time does Kevin Hart get up? He says the crack of dawn. What does he do when he first wakes up? Well, he talks about always going to the gym. He always talks about, wanting to better himself constantly and things like that. So if you have the mindset of that's not me, I can't be that person, then you're always going to be stuck over in that side, what I call that unempowered emotional home. Now, if you start to embrace things, habits, patterns, and so on and so forth, like, let's say somebody like Kevin Hart, then you start paying more attention to Kevin Hart. You start to be it until you see it. Okay? So again, it's just all about letting go of these old thoughts and thinking, these old patterns that are really, truly blocking you from that desired version of yourself, that person that you know that you can be, but most of the time you just give up because you feel like you don't know how to get there. But I'm telling you, this is how you're going to unlock it. You have to be mindful of your thoughts and thinking. You have to really catch those thoughts, be able to really catch it. And then ask yourself that question: is this still my truth? Do I still believe this? Just kind of like over this holiday weekend, this was probably the first time in, I couldn't tell you how many years, probably a good 25, 30 years, that I have not consumed alcohol during a holiday. Now, it's taken me like 4 years to get to this point, and 4 years of asking myself, is this in alignment with who I am and who I desire to be? Right? Is this going to take me in that direction, or is it going to continue to pull me back, and then hence repeating that crazy pattern over and over again? Well, I know for me, if I consume that, then it's not going to up-level me by any means. It's absolutely going to pull me down into an emotional home that needs to be recalibrated over and over and over again for days at a time. So whether your vice is something like that, or if it's like food, or whatever it is that you find yourself always getting stuck over, then you have to ask yourself, are my emotions calibrated with that I desire to become? So going back to the Abraham Hicks, is basically what she was saying was that when you are, let's say, getting ready to move into something, let's say you're looking to, let's say you're looking to get a different job, or you want to start a business, or what have you. You have to calibrate the emotions so that you're kind of like opening that up so that you are able to move into that. Now, for some people, that may sound a little bit woo and wacky, but honestly, that's really the power of the universe giving you assistance with your gifts that are all there for you. It's just you haven't gotten to that point, or that vibration, as I call it, of unlocking it. And so for me, what keeps me going, like one of my, I guess, emotional homes is like the excitement of continuing to unlock these gifts that keep coming my way because of the work that I am doing. And when I mean work in the sense of personal work on myself, helping others, staying present, not falling into, patterns of yucky behaviors and things like that, that open up a whole box of, like adding in additional shame and guilt and things like that. Because let's face it, it's there. A lot of times when we are engaging in things that we regret, we end up building upon shame and guilt. So last night, for example, I made a post in this group, and I basically had talked about the fact that, throughout the years of my erratic behaviors, which mostly were attached to drinking. And again, I don't want to just make this all about drinking, because it's not. It's really, I'm just talking about patterns, but I think a lot of people can relate to this. And it's my personal story. So that's why I talk about it a lot. But, throughout the years of, doing and saying things, and I would wake up with regret, like, oh my God, I don't know what I did or said. And I would have this yucky pit in my stomach. Oh, it was just awful. It was like a continuous collection of shame and guilt. And it felt like a mountain. But, throughout the years, as I have been working on this, I have been able to open up conversations and shed light on different things that I've done. Now, in this post, I basically talked about how time to time I will get these memories that pop up. Some of them I have forgotten about. Some of them I vividly remember. Now, for a moment, I will have a sense of, yuck, like, oh my God, I forgot about that. But then I recalibrate, for, let's use that word, and say, you know what? Thank you, subconscious mind, for bringing that memory to my attention, because now I am able to forgive and let it go. So instead of having and harboring and continuing to hug and hold on to this shame and guilt that I've collected, probably thousands of different moments, I'm able to release them as they come up and let them go. So instead of looking at it of like, oh God, why did that come up? Ew. It's more so like, okay, thank you so much. It's actually a gift. Now I'm able to look at it in a different way, forgive and let go. So, like bless and release, as some people might say, you know what I mean? And so it's really just reframing and putting a different perspective and recalibrating. Because if I allowed that moment of that image of action that I did to affect my emotions and pull me down to that yucky, shameful, guilty, icky feeling, then what is that going to do? That's going to keep me over in this area that is not where my desired self lives. My desired self lives over here and up here, over and up, right? So I wanted to share this message with you. I hope that this is something that can really resonate with you, because honestly, like I said, at the end of the day, when you really, really are looking to make permanent change, it all comes down to your patterns, the way that you think about something, the way that you perceive something, the way that you are accepting something in your life. And also, are you willing to move into a different emotional home, or are you defaulting back into those old emotions? Hence recreating that same reality. So I'm just going to say one more thing and then I'm going to sign off. If you are truly looking to make change for this year, truly looking, it doesn't always have to be the first of the year where you draw the line in the sand. But if you are somebody that feels like, you know what, I'm just so sick and tired of ABC. I'm so sick and tired of feeling, looking, acting, doing ABC. Then the first thing you need to look at are those patterns and your behaviors. And you have to have that awareness of what was that thought that I just had? Or why did I just do that? Here's an example, one last thing. I noticed things were a little bit stressful. Was it Saturday? I can't remember what day it was. New Year's Eve. Trying to get out the door to get to dinner. And I heard this thought that said, it literally said, man, I could use a drink. And I was like, well, that was weird. You know, I heard that. But that is an example of a default. That right there is a default behavior, emotion, belief, because that's what I used to say to myself when things got stressful. So if you create that awareness, if you start to really listen to what you're saying to yourself, I'm telling you, it's going to make a massive, massive shift into the direction that you desire to go in. And you could do this at any time. This doesn't have to be, oh, it's the first of the year, let's make all this crazy change. It's really like, okay, like I said, you're ready and you need to be ready, and you got to walk through that journey. You have to walk through some difficult shit, and you have to be able to say, you know what, yeah, boy, you know, instead of backing up like, oh, that got a little uncomfortable, I don't think I like it, I'll deal with it later. You don't want to go down that path because that's what you've always done. So why keep fucking doing that? Got to walk through that shit. You got to walk through it. You got to let it go. And I hope that this message resonated with you. If it did, please say yes. Feel free to share this. I'm so grateful for you for tuning in. You could always private message me if you have any questions or anything like that. I would love to help and assist. Have a wonderful day and Happy New Year.